Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and get started with the first thing, of course, that you will see in Premiere, which is this. All right. Right, so that's the first screen you're going to see. Now, of course, you can see some of my pre-existing projects there. What we want to do now is begin that new project. So, of course, we can come up to the New Project button right up here and click on New Project. All right. Now, as mentioned, one of the things that I hear a lot from customers is, you know, this dialogue, it's just kind of scary. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to give it a name. All right. So we're going to call this, we're going to be working with some footage. I used this in a stream yesterday that I shot in Alaska. So we're just going to call this Alaska, and we'll call it Alaska Behance. All right. Tell it where you want that to go. So let's go, and I've got a folder desktop mask with text. Sure, I'm going to stick it in there. Now, under General, which is the tab that's selected by default, the first thing you'll see here is video rendering and playback. All right, now I'm going to go through all these things. Well, not every single one of them, but I'm going to go through the ones that are relevant that you should be aware of, okay? Long story short, this enables or allows you to enable some type of GPU acceleration. That means that you're leveraging the RAM on your graphics card to handle a lot of the processing, specifically things like effects processing. If you're going to add, color correction or blurs or really any type of animation, movement, or effects, you generally want some kind of GPU acceleration. Now, whether you're on the Mac or the PC, we have a recommended GPU acceleration method, which will already be pre-selected. And you can see here I'm on the Mac, and that method is Apple Metal. Now we also have the older, you can see it shows up as deprecated, OpenCL. And then there's something here called software only. Now this will not use GPU. There's no reason you can't use software only, but the problem is that's using all CPU. So ultimately, when you start adding effects and things, its performance may be a little bit slower. So again, the ability to take advantage of GPU acceleration, that's what you want to do. That's going to be pre-selected for you. You don't necessarily need to change it. For those of you working with NVIDIA CUDA cards, you may also see the option there for NVIDIA CUDA. You can try that as well. But just to point out that this is really the one setting in this area here that you'll probably want to just be aware of. Now, as far as display format, timecode, feet, frames, you're not going to ever really need to change this. This feet and frames, again, this is related to those kind of working in film who are familiar with that. And if you just want to see frames, that's fine. The standard timecode is pretty much what everybody's used to. You're never going to change that. Audio display format, kind of the same thing. Also, using audio samples is kind of ridiculous. There's really no point. 48,000 samples per second. It's not going to tell you anything about the length or the duration unless you want to do tons of math in your head. So you're just going to leave it at milliseconds. And then capture here, this is literally related to FireWire capture back when we used to control or input via FireWire-based DV and HDV cameras. So if you're doing that, and if you actually are capturing DV somehow, you could change that to DV. The default here is HDV. Again, you're likely never going to have to bother with that. All right, now the other two tabs here, scratch disks and ingest settings. Scratch disks, anybody who works in Photoshop, you'll be familiar with this already. There's a whole bunch of elements that get created when you build a Premiere Pro project. And you can see here, captured video, captured audio, video previews, project autosave, CC library downloads, and motion graphics template media. The default location for these is the same as the project, and it'll typically place it, again, sort of adjacent to where all of the other media is going. If you have specific needs to place those elements somewhere else, you can customize it, okay? Most people will never need to change that. Certainly, if this is your first project, you're just trying to get started, you don't need to change any of these things. Let's go ahead and click OK. We gave it a name. We're telling it where it goes, and it opens up Premiere, all right? So give it a second here. And now, of course, my interface might look a little bit different than yours. This is obviously customized for the stream here. But what you're going to see, of course, are a couple of familiar panels. So up at the top here, I've got my project panel. And this is where all of your footage will live. You'll also see things like a source monitor, an effects controls panel, a track mixer. Again, it kind of just depends on what workspace you're in. Your workspaces, incidentally, just like in Photoshop, just like in Illustrator, just like in every Adobe app, contained under the Window menu, Workspace. All right, now I'm in a modified color workspace here. You can see Behance Masterclass. Yours will likely be different. I don't even remember what the default workspace is. All they're really doing, of course, is just revealing certain panels to you. If you're getting started, I would probably recommend the editing workspace or the assembly workspace as a good place to get started. It's going to show you most of the panels that you need, including the tools panel, the timeline panel, the project panel, the effects controls panel, and the program panel, all right, or the program monitor. You'll hear me call these things out again because all of these can be accessed from this menu here, all right? So again, you might want to go to something like the editing workspace here. If I take a look at this one here, again, these are all probably modified because I play with them all the time. Incidentally, if you double click on a workspace, you'll see that it can be reset to the last saved version of that workspace. Now again, I've modified all of mine for the stream, so I'm not going to change them. But if we wanted to go back to however it was last saved or the default save, you can do that. And you have that checkbox to always ask, okay? All right, but I'm going to go back to my color BMC one here. Okay, so importing footage, all right? That's where we got to start, right? Hold on, we're just looking here. All right. So complicated. Okay, hey, we haven't even done anything yet, right? It's actually not. Again, that's what I'm saying, is you just have to be aware of all the little things. It doesn't have to take this long. I'm just explaining it all so that you know what's involved, okay? Now, naturally, you have a lot of different ways to import footage. If you simply double-click inside of the project panel, that will open up whatever your last folder accessed was, and then you can access all of your additional folders in your operating system here. So if I wanted to bring in, let's say, something like this piece of footage right here, I can select it, click Import, and it will immediately appear inside of my project panel like that. All right, now we're going to get to viewing the media in just a second. Now, typically, it actually shows up this way, which is in what is known as list view. And here, I'm just going to zoom down so you can see. Inside the project panel, there are 3 discrete types of views: list view, icon view, and freeform view. And we're going to cover all these. So this is the list view. Now, the list view is nice if you just want to see all of the attributes, everything that's kind of inside or what that file is made up of. It's going to tell you all of that. So if I hit the tilde key, now this is on the US keyboard. It's different on all keyboards, so I can't tell you what it is on the Italian keyboard or the German keyboard or the Swedish keyboard because it's different on all of them. It's the tilde sign, all right? Those of you who speak Spanish will know it. If I hit the tilde key, it goes full screen on this panel. So just to kind of show you what the list view does, it shows you the frame rate, okay? Media start and end, the duration of the media. We haven't done any in and out points yet, so obviously it's the whole thing. This is effectively all of your metadata, right? It shows you that this is 4K footage shot at 60 frames per second. So this was done on the iPhone here. How the audio was captured, it's 44.1 mono. All right, there's no other additional metadata in here. Status, it's online, and then there's some other fields. Now, again, we're not going to get into a whole metadata thing because that's a little bit more advanced, but that's what the list view does. Kind of hard, though, to see what's in that footage, right? Now, traditionally, you would double-click on this clip, and it would open up in the source monitor. And traditionally, the source monitor is where you preview footage, like this. So you just hit play, so you'll see you have your transport controls down at the bottom of the source monitor. All right. And you can take the playhead, also known as the current time indicator, this little blue button right here, and you can scrub through it all, okay? And that's fine, and this is also where you could set in and out points. We're not going to do it here, though. I'm going to show you a different way. By the way, to set in and out points, which is basically setting the selection that you want to begin using in your timeline, you use the key I and O. I for in, O for out. But I'm going to show you a better way. This is kind of the more traditional way, all right? Also, double-clicking inside the project panel is a classic way of importing footage. But we also have a panel called the media browser. And actually, I want to say, is that docked up here? It is. So I'm going to move this one over to the program panel here. Now again, if you're using any of the modern CC apps, they're all dockable panels. You know how this works. I'm not going to cover that. All right, so let's look at this footage inside the media browser. Okay, so I've got my content contained here in this folder called More Assets. 2017, all right? And here is all of my footage, okay? So everything's laid out here. You can see it all, all right? Very nice, okay? And now this gives you the opportunity to actually see everything that you're looking at before you import it. Makes sense. Now inside the media browser, you of course also have a list view, zooming in so you can see it at the bottom here, there's the icon for that, as well as the thumbnail view, all right? You also have a zoom bar here. So this allows you to zoom in on everything, okay? So you can make the icons bigger, you can make the video icons bigger so you can see exactly what's happening inside of the footage. That's particularly useful if you're going to be making selections. It's just a lot easier to see exactly what's inside of all the footage, okay? So, and when you hover over your clips with your mouse, I'm not clicking anything, just showing you here. This is what's called hover scrubbing, all right? So you can click on the clip itself. When you do that, you'll actually see that there's a little playhead. And that will scrub through playing the audio as well. With the clip selected, you can also use shuttle keys, known as JKL on your keyboard. J to go backwards, K to pause or stop, L to go forwards. And if you hit it twice, it goes double speed. Same with reverse. And I think if you hit it 3 times, it goes triple speed, okay? So this just allows you a little bit more flexibility in bringing in that content and seeing it all at a glance, okay? So let's go ahead and make multiple selections here. So I'm going to come up to this piece of footage, and I'm going to hold down on the Mac my Command key. So I'm selecting multiple bits of footage. And I'm just selecting some of these clips here, all right? This one, all of these I think are some slow-mo of water. So once you've made your selections, again, holding down the Command key or the Control key on Windows, I'm simply going to click and drag all of this content into the project panel. And now it all shows up in the list view in the project panel. Great. Okay. But we're still looking at that list view. Kind of makes it hard to make our selects and, again, begin assembling our timeline. So this is where now we're going to change the view to something called Freeform. Freeform is this button that you see down here. Now this was actually introduced last year. And when you click on Freeform view, Freeform is just that. Now I'm going to hit my tilde key to go full screen. Of course, in lieu of the tilde key, I could also just expand the panel if I wanted to. All right. What this allows me to do is, first and foremost, see all of my video. Now again, I can resize it as well. You can't see the resizer because my camera's in the way. Hold on. So here, let me just switch over so you can see. All right, so all your controls are at the bottom here. So you can see the little resizer right there. All right, adjust the size of icons and thumbnails. Let's go back to my video here. All right. So you can resize everything first and foremost, but then you can also pick up your media and move it around. So you can group things together. So this little series of shots here, this is all the same vantage point, all the same place. If I hold down the Option key, it even allows me to snap these clips together. All right, you can see that they're just magnetic. All right, here's another series of shots. These two are from the same vantage, well, actually opposite vantage points, but the same kind of look and feel, right? So I like those two together. This one is totally separate. By the way, if you right-click on a clip, go to your menu down here. Now, again, are we going to be able to see all this? I think so. You'll see that you also have clip size. So I can resize those clips. All of this just in an effort to allow you to see the content a little bit better. So right now it's at medium size. Let's go to a large size so we can resize it. If I want to take these 3 clips here, select them all, right clip size, let's make those extra large, and it resizes all of them. Now, again, because I stacked them side by side, they're kind of in a weird, they're not layered like they were, so I'm just going to move these down like this. Again, you can stack them however you like, which is really, really nice, okay? And you can begin to just organize things in the way that maybe you want to tell the story, maybe by different types or times of day. Whatever the theme is, however you want to assemble and organize, Freeform lets you do that. Now, what it also lets you do is, just like with the media browser, hover scrub, and set your in and out points. So this is essential. This is what allows you to find the best moment in your video, or that intro, right? You always do a little, all right, take one, here we go. And then you begin, so you can set the in right where you begin. So again, if I click on this clip here, I have my playhead. I can scrub through. I can hit my JKL keys to shuttle if I want to. All right, like that. And I can set my ins and outs. So I'm going to say I for in, and you see that it eliminates the blue from the beginning of this clip. That means we're not using those first couple of frames. Let's play through it. All right, something like that. O for out. So now this highlighted blue section, this is the piece that we're going to be using. All right. This is the piece of the clip that will show up when we build a timeline, which we're going to do right now. So again, the process at this point is let's start reviewing all of our footage and find the good stuff that we want to import. All right. So we'll do the same thing on this one. Now I'm zooming in just so it's a little bit easier. We could also just resize these on screen. So I'll click inside my clip. All right. These were all shot in Alaska, so just a variety of different sort of landscapey shots here. I'm not saying this is a fantastic film, just kind of showcasing some of the beautiful sights. Some running water. Set my in and out points, all right? And then we'll come over to this one, and this is kind of a cool shot. There were all these crazy birds. This is in Seward, Alaska. And so here, maybe I'll just set my out point right about there. Okay, so now I have this series of shots, and let's say I want to build a timeline. In fact, I'll stick this one at the end here from this series of shots. Oh, and by the way, you may have noticed, as I dragged this off screen, everything else is moving because this is a continuous, think of this as like a video artboard. All right, if I zoom back out again, you see that you get the little divider so you can move around on screen. You can move this stuff anywhere. Now I'm using a single monitor here, and based on the stream here, I'm working in 1080, 1920 by 1080. If you've got a huge monitor, you can put this stuff all over the place. You can drag things off screen. You can make as much available real estate as you need to be able to organize all of your clips real easily. By the way, if you right click in the dead space here, or control click, you can also align to a grid or reset your media to any one of those metadata parameters. So if you wanted to say organize by clip name, or again by proxy, or by video duration in ascending or descending order, you can do that in a grid-like fashion. You also have the ability, and this is really useful, to save layouts. So I might say save as new layout. Call this Alaska, take one. Because this way, if I move stuff all over the place, let's just say I had even more clips in here, and I think I'm going to tell a different story later on, I'm like, you know what? I don't love this. I want to go back to the way it was. Right click, restore layout, Alaska take one, and everything goes back to the way it just was. All right. So you can save the look, save the layout of that artboard, of your freeform canvas at any time. And that gets saved with the project. So even if you come back 3 days later, you've moved stuff around after saving it, and you're like, I want to go back to the way it was, you can recall it. And you can save, of course, multiple versions. That's typically what I'll do anyway. So now we've got a series of in and out points, and we want to build our timeline. Okay, there's a couple different ways that you can do this. If you simply right click on a single clip, okay, the best way to do it is new sequence from clip. Right click, control click, new sequence from clip. And what that will do is it will automatically create a sequence for you in the correct frame size with the correct pixel aspect ratio. Everything is done for you at the right frame rate. And there it is. And you can play back your content just like that. Okay. Now that's for a single clip. Now, one of the nice things about Freeform is if I select my first clip in my stack of clips here, hold down my Shift key and select the last one. Now I'm going to say new sequence from clip, and it's going to do the same thing, except now it's going to assemble everything in the order that I had it selected there and allow me to, have all of that footage based on the in and out points that we chose inside my timeline here. Because we're in a 4K timeline, if I still wanted to use this footage in 4K, I can right click or control click on the clip, and I can choose scale to frame size, and it will now fill the frame. All right. Similarly with this clip, scale to frame size, it does the same thing. All right. And come over to my last clip here, and we're going to do scale to frame size. I'm viewing this at 1/4 resolution. So this really allows me to very briskly move through my content, scrub through my content, see everything that's in here. All right. This clip as well. Stop. All right. Gets a little bit sharper. Now, again, this is a scaled clip, so it's a little softer anyway. So I always keep the pause at full, and I generally will keep my playback usually at half. One of the nice things, too, about working with 4K, and I shoot everything these days on the iPhone, frankly. We're looking at this little small window. It looks good. Even at half res, I don't feel like I'm losing detail in my shot. I really don't. Now, the other thing, of course, is you also have a fit setting. So what's nice about this is if we go to this shot here, okay, if I go to fit and I say 100%, this is actually the full size of the clip now in the program monitor. Again, it's 4K, so it's rather large. To see it all, though, in this view, I need to fit it like that, all right? So again, maybe you have your program monitor docked off to another monitor which is running full screen at all time. Then, and if it's a 4K monitor, then you can choose fit, or you can choose 100% scale or 50% scale, or in this case, 10% scale. And it's just scaling down that viewable window so that you can see it in the real estate that you've provided. All right, it's that simple. No real magic there, but something to be aware of. Generally, again, 100%, you're like, where's my shot? And why do I have these scroll bars over here? Yeah, okay. Fit. Oh, there we go. Now I see everything. Okay. Okay. So while I'm here, actually, let's talk a little bit about tools. Okay. So and then we'll get to warp stabilizer. Once you are, you've got your content in the timeline, of course, the durations are not fixed. You can move things. So with your sequence selected here, if I just hover my mouse over the edges of my clips, right, what you're seeing here is this allows you to trim, all right? And you can see that as I'm trimming right now, on the right, it's showing me, okay, I'm changing the in point of this clip, okay? Now, this trim, when it's red like that, is trimming the actual clip. What typically people want to do is what's known as a ripple, where you're trimming it, but you want it to take the beginning of that and keep it where it was, right? Snapped against that other clip. So for that, you can use a basic keyboard shortcut. Now, I'm not a huge keyboard shortcut person. I know very few of them. I don't use them, again, because for years when we had to work internationally, it was just too hard to remember them all. So I would use menu items or icons. For this, however, this is a shortcut I always use, which is, again, the Command key. So if you hover over and it's red, hold down the Command key. All right, let me zoom back out so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so this is now a ripple trim. And now, as I adjust my in point, when I let go, you'll see that it snaps the video back to that point where I want it against the other video there, all right? So again, if you've got your red trims, like at the end of this is fine. Maybe I'm expanding this. That's okay, there's nothing after that. But what if I wanted to shorten this clip? Well, if I do it in red, I'm leaving a gap, right? Command Z to undo. Hover my mouse over, Command turns yellow, drag the end point over. Now you can see on the left, we're seeing the time code where the end point is, the last frame, let go, and now it snaps everything together like that, okay? And it'll segue from our birds to that clip right there, okay? Now, if we look at the tools here, we're not going to cover every single one of these for editing. You've also got your ripple edit tool specifically again. So again, this requires that you this doesn't require that you hold down a keyboard shortcut. You've got your razor tool, right? And that is exactly what you think. What if I want to cut it somewhere? I want to cut this right here and move this somewhere else. Take your razor tool and click and cut. And now you'll see you've got two clips there. Now to move it, we're going to hit V. That's your standard Adobe move tool, right? And we're just going to move these clips over like that. Okay? So again, now I don't so much use the ripple edit tool, shortcut key B. I always forget it's B. So you've got V for your selection or move tool, B for your ripple edit, the yellow tool, C for your razor tool. This one is also pretty useful, which is the slip tool, shortcut key Y. What is the slip tool? Well, this allows you to adjust the timing. Let's say that I don't want to change the edits or where this clip is in relation to the ones before and after, but I want to change what you're seeing on screen. All right, if I go to my slip tool, what this actually does is it's letting you adjust the content inside the clip that you're seeing, all right? So you're slipping it forward or backward in time without changing the edit position. Make sense? All right. So those are really kind of fundamentally the four most common things that you're going to use. Now there's other side-by-side editing things. We're not going to get into that right now. When you drag your clips in or bring them in from freeform, as you saw, it's going to bring the audio together with it. Incidentally, if I wanted to take another clip that wasn't included, I can also just drag that down into the timeline here. Now you'll see if I move up, it'll place the audio and video on different tracks. Your default is 3 video and 3 audio tracks. Why do that? Well, sometimes you want to process audio differently. You want to keep things separated. I'm just holding this down, and this is allowing me to choose where it goes. So let's place this maybe on track 2 and audio track 2, all right? Incidentally, too, you'll notice that as I'm moving these over, the edits are snapping together. That snapping is enabled right here inside of your timeline, snap in timeline. If I uncheck that, you can see it's a magnet icon. I'm not getting any indicators of these being, right at the edge of each other. Okay, so this can get a little confusing, right, if things aren't snapped together. Turn back on snapping. Now I get these little lines. You can see them very clearly. All right. And I know that when this clip ends, it's going to segue into the next clip. Just go ahead and play that. Just like that. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to show you here, which is actually super cool. Now, I showed you bringing stuff in from the project panel right down into the timeline. Well, you can also bring things from the project panel into the program monitor. So if I take this clip here, our bird clip, and I simply drag it into the program monitor, and this is one of these undiscovered things a lot of people don't know, you'll see that you get these overlays that say, okay, do you want to insert that before the current clip? Do you want to replace it? Do you want to overwrite? Do you want to overlay on a second track? Or do you want to insert after? So this is super, super cool and useful, especially if you're doing one clip at a time. I can say, okay, yeah, I want to put the birds before the boat. Insert before. Watch what happens. Just that. It inserted the birds before the boat clip. Undo it. All right, take the same one here. Let's insert it after. Now it did the same thing. By the way, the backslash key, backslash on the US keyboard, is allowing me to constantly see everything that's in my timeline. So again, we've got our water here on the boat and then the birds, okay? Take another clip. Again, maybe I want to do an overlay on this one. So it's going to cut to that and then cut back to something else. Overlay. It overlays exactly where my cursor was or my current time indicator. So now when I play this back, all right, we go from the boat to a different scene of running water, all right, another bird, and then back to that scene right there. So it overlaid that clip. All right, let's take this one here. Oops, I didn't mean to grab multiples. This one, okay, overlay, replace, overwrite. Let's do a replace on this. And it did just that. It replaced the clip that it was over top of. Okay, and you'll notice, what is this here? Well, this clip is shorter, so it didn't fill all the space from the previous clip. All right, so drag and drop with these, I think we call these drop zones, super useful, all right? A lot of people never discover that because they just drag into the timeline, but you can also drag right onto the program monitor, okay? So those are kind of the basics for getting started, right? Showed you how to set up the project, showed you how to import footage. You can double click in the project panel. You can use the media browser to navigate to your footage and drag things in. You can then use something like Freeform, which allows you to very freely and easily view your content, visually organize your content, set in and outs, and then drag things into the timeline. Also showed you how you can drag stuff directly over the program monitor and determine where it goes with your existing footage in a timeline. You also have the ability to create new sequences from the new item icon here. We talked about the various tools, including selection tool, ripple edit tool, razor tool, and the slip tool, right? We didn't even get to type tool, but again, that's beyond the basics. We'll get that in another class when we talk about motion graphics templates. And then your basic slip and slide assembly inside your timeline, as well as adjusting playback and pause resolution to give you the best playback and scrub performance when you are working inside the program monitor. All right. So thank you so much for joining. Of course, the replay will be available on Behance and the Adobe Creative Cloud YouTube channel.